and met the delegation, and all is just to stand by the family. The man that has died was our head of state and head of our party. So we cannot in any way interfere with the family demands. All we can do is support the demands of the family.
Of the family. Now, several stakeholders, one among them, the Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia, today, through its executive director, Bishop Andrew Mwenda, did call on both parties, the government, as well as the family, to expeditiously arrive at a decision that will bring closure to the issue of repatriation. Now, as a party who is giving support to the family, what do you see as the most contentious stick points that are failing to help the parties arrive at a unifying decision as has been called for by the Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia?
Yeah, thank you, Pastor. You are right. You are right, Pastor. The demands as outlined. This is a give and take situation. This is a matter that is a matter of the community in South Africa. They have a tradition when a Zambian dies in South Africa, is accorded an opportunity to be given the Republic of Zambia. Honorable Enoch Kavindele and Honorable Leslie Mbula, who was former secretary to cabinet. Again, the issue there immediately were that these two personalities, though senior members of our country, though held lofty positions in our country, they haven't been very kind to President Edgar Lungu. They've been issuing very hostile, vitriol remarks against the former president. Some statements were issued as late as last week before his demise. So this was the biggest concern, that the special envoys sent by the president were not suitable. So the talks collapsed. Later they were called in the evenings, and when they again met, at least the two gentlemen were not part of the discussions. And now the discussions were led by Secretary to Cabinet, Mr. Patrick Kangwa. I think the family laid and in the provision of security to secure the remains until they are put to rest. Hence, they agreed with those demands, and they said that.
Should I rephrase what I said?
Yeah, yes, please. Thank you. I missed you there.
Okay. All right. I was saying that I need to push you in an uncomfortable position, because there are some allegations and accusations from some social media pages associated with the ruling party that your insistence as a party and as a family to repatriate the remains privately is for sinister motives, that perhaps you want to sneak into the country donations, money, using the pretext of a coffin, and that's why you do not want to surrender the coffin and the remains of the former president to the state. What are your thoughts around such allegations that you would like to use the remains to hide certain donations that may have come through? I know it's uncomfortable, but you need to address this, because people,
if someone hasn't traveled, the family may have possession or may have sight of the body, but they have
signed their book of condolences. Must we be faced with this kind of a situation? What should we be doing going forward now that the president has also addressed the nation?
The last time he went to hospital was 2022, and from 2022 he had never been allowed, almost 9 hours later, to then issue this statement that the former president had passed on whilst receiving medical in Africa. That was number one. It has been a failure of leadership. If government had taken the lead from day one, opened Belvedere, I don't think Honorable Given Lubinda would have opened the secretariat But by the end of when the secretariat was being opened at 19 hours for people to gather, because people had been gathering, they didn't even put them as special envoy. There are people that are of that can walk into President Hakainde Hichilema's State House and can walk to Edgar Lungu. There are many senior people in our country that the president could have used as special envoy. There is this allegation that the PF want to use this to politicize the funeral to gain political mileage. It is folly for anyone to think that you can use death and these devastating circumstances to obtain political fortunes. You are fooling yourself if you think you can do that, because it can spectacularly backfire. And that is why all of us have been acting with restraint. You asked a peculiar question, that what could I have done? In my case, when I was administrative assistant to the former President Frederick Chiluba, and the night he died on 18th June. First of all, I was in our inner circle, I was the last one to hear about it. But as soon as they called me, Dr. Kangwa called me, I came to the funeral home. It was devastating for everyone. I didn't mourn. I immediately just went into high gear. The first person I called was the Secretary to Cabinet, Dr. Joshua Kanganja at the time. And I told him, Secretary to Cabinet, we have a disaster. The president has died and has died at his house. There was a medical incident here. They were trying to call an ambulance, but he has died. He's still in bed. I've just seen him. He's still in his bed with Mama Regina Chifunda, who had just arrived from Ndola. He gave me instructions. Call number 1, State House. President Rupia Banda was in Chipata at the time. And he says the second call should be to the University Teaching Hospital. Call the managing director, whoever you can reach. They quickly come and secure the body. And I made those 2 calls. One to Honorable Bob Samakai. I tried to call Dixon Jerry. He didn't answer, but I called Bob Samakai. And Bob Samakai, that is after almost midnight 30, promptly answered. And I delivered the sad news. The president has gone. I don't know the circumstances, but I've been caught. I found the doctor, I found Mama Chifunda and the children here, but the president has gone. He expressed his condolences. He says he will look for the president, because it was after midnight. It was way in the, now going to 01. I waited for the official announcement and I put it to Mourning. This remember, is 2011. Social media was just growing. Sadly, just before the president died, apparently when he had this attack, the children had run out and appealed to the police to call for an ambulance. And that the police, instead of calling an ambulance, they went on the open air police line and said, bring an ambulance to the residence of former President Frederick Chiluba. So that immediately, the information quickly went out. By 02, I had tremendous calls, people trying to understand what medical emergency had occurred at the residence of former President Edgar Lungu, because on the open police line, they had announced that they needed an ambulance to his house. So by 04, the media was camped outside, and I remember Movie TV had even broken the news. So I was forced to confirm from the little information I had known. And I said we should wait for government to make the announcement. And true to that, by the following day, by a few hours, President Rupia Banda made the announcement from Chipata of the demise of the president, and immediately made instructions of the mourning period. And we were moved to Belvedere Lodge, the entire family. So everyone now gathered at Belvedere Lodge, and it became the official mourning place. So this matter has been mishandled from the beginning. We shouldn't waste any more time. Zambians are becoming wary. Where is the leadership from the family? Where is the leadership from State House? Where is the president taking us on this matter? What are these demands that are delaying us to mourn the president in dignity? Should there be this crisis and standoff? I was hoping that the president, in his address, Pastor Mambwe, that he will provide a quick address or response to these concerns by the family. But as you saw, the address said a lot of things by saying nothing. He used very general terms. You don't even know what he's saying. Yes, he has called for peace, he has called for dignity, he has called for respect of life, and he has called for tolerance, and he has called for unity amongst all of us. But the way forward, there is this standoff. Are you able to resolve it quickly? You are declared 7 days of national mourning. Are we going to beat the deadline? How are things going? To what extent are you resolving these issues? That didn't come from the presidential address. We still call for leadership. In my view, this matter remains for the family. I am not speaking for the family. I should be very clear. I'm speaking on behalf of the party, and of course in my own capacity, I can give insights of what needs to be done. And in my view, let us engage in meaningful negotiations. Takwaba, any negotiations that you can't resolve in our country, takwaba. We are a place of peace. We are a place of protocols. Lusaka has made so many peace protocols. Our presidents have been pioneers of resolving very big conflicts which involve lives, like in Angola, like in the DRC, like securing independence for the Southern Africa region. Can we fail to resolve a matter between the family and our former head of state? To my view, to my knowledge, no, we cannot fail.
Now, information reaching us as of this evening points to the effect that as at tomorrow perhaps we are likely to see two camps claiming to be members of the family of the former head of state. One camp led by an opposition political party figure affiliated to the Tonse Alliance and PF will say, here are the family members, and they've given express permission to the family to repatriate the body. There is another camp of other family members who seem to be in agreement with the position of South Africa. And this, from what we understand, is a group of family members led by Mr. Mangani Piri, if I'm not mistaken, based on the information we are receiving. That group is aligned with the position of South Africa, yet there is a political party figure who is siding, from what we understand. These are unconfirmed reports reaching us as of this evening, that this particular political party individual figure is going to stand parading some figures purporting to be family members, and they will say they have given the family, the president and his government, express permission to repatriate the body. Has that kind of information reached you? And if it escalates to that, are we not likely to see more confusion?
My appeal is very simple. The president must show leadership. This is not a political contest. Would he like to be buried without the consent of Mama First Lady Mutinta? Would he love that he's put to rest without the consent of his children? If the answer is yes to that, let him proceed to do what he wishes to do. You know, this business of using surrogates like Laura Mitty or Simon Moore and other people to ridicule, scandalize, the bereaved family, even insult, it is not. Let me give an example. I had to handle very serious situation during the funeral of the late President Frederick Chiluba. Mama Vera Chiluba, sorry, I need to mention this for illustrative purposes, had been married to President Frederick Chiluba for 33 years, and together they had eight or nine children. And although they were divorced and President Chiluba had moved on and had this new wife in Mama Regina Chifunda Chiluba for 10 years, Mama Vera refused to the divorce. She used to call it so-called divorce, and she kept on holding herself as a wife to the late president. At the funeral, she came and camped, and because she's such a public figure, she was former first lady, and she was such an affable figure. People loved her, and empathy and love for poor people. She immediately attracted everyone. She became the official widow. And the widow complained both to Secretary to Cabinet, who was handling the funeral, and to myself. Ngef mwachita mwasaraba mkamfuilwa. President Frederick Chiluba had made his choice. He married me. I've been his wife by his side for the last 10 years. Ngaba mwaleta ba widow ba official widow. I had to make a painful decision and disband that first widow, so that there's only one widow at the funeral. The family insulted me. Some people were annoyed. But I had to do the right thing, respect the wishes of the late president. For the period I had known him, remember I knew him after office. For the period I had known him, the only woman I knew as his wife was Mama Regina. So you will have situations like that. Is that to respect the wishes. The spouse to President Lungu, who's been with him, is Mama Esther Nyawa Lungu. Anyone who wishes to subordinate her interest is just being evil. If they don't like Makebi Zulu fronting as a spokesperson, it's a matter they can bring for negotiation. Like we denied and refused the Honorable Kavindele with due respect. We said he's a distinguished man. He has a clear record in our country. And he was privileged to have been vice president. But on this matter, the sensitivities are too high. His remarks against the late president have been very hostile. We beg that you give us another figure to speak to. I think that wasn't a bad request. So you can choose and parade relatives, but the primary interest of the widow and his children should never be hijacked. If you have concerns around Makebi Zulu, you are just politicizing. Every family has politicians. Makebi Zulu has been chosen by the president. He's been with him first as his lawyer. They are related somehow, for those people that know. And he's been with him the last 6 months. And there's no better person to carry the wishes of the president than Makebi Zulu. So to single him out and begin to scandalize him, you are just aggravating the situation. Because the family will rally around Makebi Zulu. And all of us are going to rally around Makebi Zulu. And when you manufacture relatives, we saw a group of relatives that were at Belvedere. Bushe nga lupwalobe nga nafwa. Bushe kutuwayalo sesha kumbite kuya kunganda. Again, that was a big issue. So they can do politics. For me, it's lack of leadership by the UPND. They are taking this matter as a political process. What they should do is not to politicize the funeral. What they should do is to yield to the demands of the family, or to enter into negotiations so that we resolve this impasse, that the remains of the former president should be in the country, that we mourn united together. But by creating political stance, you manufacture relatives, you manufacture friends, and then they should hijack the process. Come on. You are just exacerbating the matter, and you won't win. You can give them as much coverage as even on ZNBC, live coverage on ZNBC. It will not resolve the matter. And unless a state wishes to abduct the body from South Africa, and Pastor Kennedy, you said South African position. I think we need to clarify. There's no South African position. All of us are speaking to the presidency in South Africa. I have seen propaganda that has been circulated by affiliated state house in online rogue media, where they are saying South Africa gives 24 hours or 48 hours deadline. South Africa says if there is a formal request, we can repatriate the body. They cannot. You cannot deport a body. There are procedures. I was ambassador in South Africa and I dealt with many cases. Just the other day, I gave an example of one of our most favorite striker and player, winger, Dennis Lotter. Dennis Lotter died in South Africa, and the widow, who's South African, refused that you couldn't repatriate the bodies. We intervened to respond to the father to Dennis Lotter and his cries that my son should lie in Zambia. It didn't happen. So let us just be careful. This is not a time for political posturing or political stance. This is not a time to embarrass one another. I think at the center should be, what would Edgar Lungu have done? This is a man of peace. This is a man that didn't love standoffs. And if we have to respect his wishes, let us do just exactly that. But to attempt to engage in politics, you engage in politics, the other side will engage in politics. And we are being totally unfair. Did you see the pictures of the former First Lady? Did you see how broken she is? For how long would you want her to be in that broken state? Come on. I think let us be Zambian. Let us be who we should be as a people. We are way above what we've degenerated to. The divisions, the tribal, nepotistic, and regional, polarization that has emerged is totally unacceptable. And we should use the demise of the late president to use it as an opportunity to unite all of us. But instead, we are using it as a punching bag to divide ourselves further, to cause political crisis further, to cause embarrassment. Now we are an international spectacle because we are being reported across the world. Oh, was the president poisoned? Oh, now the body is still stuck in South Africa. Now family, and come on. Where is the leadership? Where is the leadership? Where is the leadership? Who's in charge of our country? Who's the head of state of our country? Who was elected to lead us? Is this crisis too big for them to resolve?
Pertinent questions. We do not have the answer. Perhaps those in power have the answers. But you must have watched the spokesperson, Honorable Makebi Zulu, who said the family is weighing other options. When you ask around what did he mean by other options, there are those who are holding a view that perhaps the family is exploring the possibility of interring the former head of state right in South Africa or other foreign jurisdiction, only to resume his remains much later at an appropriate time. Is that a possibility? Is that even under consideration?
Pastor Kennedy, it is regrettable that we are where we are. 7 days after the late president died, 7 days after the late president died, that we are having this discussion. We should have been in deep mourning, deep reflection, and just looking forward to ending the period of national mourning, then to allow privacy to the family to pursue and mourn in privacy, begin to recover from this deep grief. That's what should have done. I'm telling you, the standoff is totally unnecessary. I repeat, what is wrong with the family's request that a community of churches in Ndola has been praying with us, and we wanted to arrive in Ndola first and conduct a church service in Ndola. We are also making a request if in their plans, government can give us an opportunity to pray in Petauke. And when we return to Lusaka, the body must lie instead at the residence. What's difficult about that question? When the family say, we've been away the last 6 months at the mercy and gesture of well-wishers. They've provided transport for us. They've provided his return. And we're asking that we've honored that request. When we land, the state will take over. Why would the state insist on picking the body from the undertaker in South Africa and transport it? Then there was a sad incident people are not discussing. There was that sad incident people are not discussing on Monday, where security personnel and government officials turned up at the hospital to literally abduct the remains of the former president. And when the hospital administration said, look, we have the first lady that we've been dealing with, and by our law, she's the one that signed, for example, for a medical procedure to done by him. She's the one that has been signing everywhere. kindly bring her to authorize the release of this body. This group of men demanded that they should take this body at all costs because they were government, and they threatened arrest, that they were going to report the administrative structure of the hospital to South African authorities for whatever they threatened them. The hospital administration called the former First Lady. Mama, there are people here to pick the body of the late president. We're all alarmed. Dingy broke the news that there was an attempt to abduct the body of the late president. That is true. That's what happened. To my knowledge, there's even CCTV footage. Uyu mubiri mwa ukoselela shani where you actually want to abduct it. Mlambo Haimbe comes, his single purpose is just to get the body. They are telling him, no, there are these concerns. No, we'll discuss in Lusaka. However, can we resolve this issue? When you fail on Monday, you send now your rogue policeman to go and pick the body by force. That's an abduction. Yet, you are saying he's former head of state. You are saying let's respect him. Are you according him respect if you wish to abduct his remains? There are all these sensitive issues that we do not wish to talk about now, but that have been exacerbating the process of negotiation. That incident on Monday is highly regrettable, and it just put the family into fright. So if there are plans that now this time they want to sanitize it, get some so-called relatives to okay it, then they abduct the body, well, let it be so. Let it be so. You know, the spirit and soul of the president, who will face them. For me, that's what I would say. What is so wrong with respecting the wishes of the family?
I repeat my question, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba.
The concerns.
I repeat my question, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba. Is burying President Edgar Lungu in South Africa an option under consideration?
If Honorable Makebi Zulu said that, remember I'm not speaking for the family, he's a family spokesperson, maybe they're exploring that opportunity. If you look at history, that's not unique. Etienne Tshisekedi, you know, that warrior who was opposition leader in the DRC, who was the only voice and the Catholic Church standing against Mobutu. When he died, there was hostility in the DRC. When he died in 2017, his remains were kept in Brussels, Belgium, for a period of 5 years until a befitting honor and funeral was held. And President Hakainde Hichilema went to the funeral of Etienne Tshisekedi, and other heads of SADC presidents. They all went to that funeral 5 years later. You have the case of Mobutu Sese Seko, who's buried in Morocco. You have Senator McCain, who was a presidential candidate in the United States, who said, I don't want Donald Trump in my funeral, he shouldn't attend it. I know, because I'm a senator, I know I'll be accorded a state funeral, but the president should not attend the ceremony. Instead, I propose that his vice president attends the ceremony. All these things are possible. And you know what is making it difficult, Pastor Kennedy, is that we don't have a law to regulate the death of our former president. We don't have such a law. All we have are some traditions and some seculars. We have not codified into law what needs to be done. The only law around the former president is the Former President's Benefits Act of 1993. That speaks about the living welfare of the president. It doesn't speak about them in death. And the issue of mourning for 7 days, the issue of gun salute are not in the law. And this became very apparent when Kaweche Kaunda requested the High Court to stop the funeral of Dr. Kaunda and to ensure that the court provides guidance, because the wishes of Dr. Kaunda, according to Kaweche, was that he should lie at State Lodge. Judge, you should look at that. He delivered it a year later, but he refused to give an injunction. So the funeral proceeded and we buried at Embers Park. But he came and ruled later. In it, he was bemoaning the lack of legislation around how to treat our former president. Because now we have a growing number of former presidents that have demised. We have had 7 presidents, now 6 of them have all died. And yet we don't have a law to regulate this. So one of the things we should do is like what Tanzania has done. They've, for example, provided in the event that there are objections from the family, and the family maybe would like to bury elsewhere, they said would conduct like a mausoleum, a stone in memory of the president that has died. Although he may not lie there, that is the official place that they are going to conduct official recognition. And if there are difficulties and the state wishes to conduct a funeral, the state can proceed. The law guides them of how to respect the wishes of the family of the president that has died, but also to fulfill the obligations of the state. In this case, we are wallowing just in traditions. Remember, we have the sad case of President Levi Mwanawasa. He put it in his will. He says, I want to lie at my farm in Palavana. We broke his wishes by relying on, not even supported by law, but by claiming state interest. And then we said, you will lie at Embers Park, because to our interest, all our heads of state will lie here. You have the funny case of President Hakainde Hichilema, who has refused to go to State House. He has refused. What do you do? Because there's no law providing Hakainde Hichilema must live in State House. There is a tradition that all our 6 presidents have lived in State House. But people, a leader like Hakainde Hichilema can get away with it because you have not provided for in law that the official residence for the head of state of the Republic of Zambia will be State House. He can get away with it. So my answer to your question is that, number one, the possibility is there, but it will be regrettable. Why should we bury our late president elsewhere? Why should we? Won't we be robbing Zambians an opportunity to mourn our former president? People woke up at 03, 04 to go and vote for him. Some benefit up to now from his leadership. They drive on good roads, fly on internet. The load shedding crisis would have been worse if he didn't do what he did by ramping up production, building power stations. President Hakainde Hichilema would not have employed the teachers and nurses he employed if President Lungu didn't build the schools. The country needs to mourn our president. That's why I'm going back to leadership. President Hakainde Hichilema provide leadership in this matter. Don't abduct the body. Don't manufacture. Do not manufacture relatives. And my question would be, President, would you like, in the circumstances you die, disregard that we disregard the wishes of the First Lady? Would you want? If the answer is yes, then proceed with what you, but if the answer is no, Mr. President, you are head of state. You are privileged to lead all of us, 20 million of us. Leadership, resolve this impasse. Not difficult. It's not a matter you got to resolve. Resolve the matter so then lay to rest our former head of state.
Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, there was information to the effect that the family in South Africa would like to conduct an autopsy, would like an autopsy conducted on the former head of state to allay the fears that he may have not died of natural causes, because sentiments are that, even as Ambassador Twala, who gave some eulogy at the memorial service in South Africa, he said, when I met him, he was on the mends, he was jovial, and everything was looking up. The sudden call to hear that he has demised has raised a lot of questions. We understand there has been a demand by the family for an autopsy to be conducted. As someone close to the family, and you are speaking on behalf of the party that he led, what is the position regarding that?
Pastor Kennedy, thank you very much for that question. It's a legitimate call. It's a legitimate question. The president was well. He was planning to come at the month end. He's been undergoing medical treatment the last 6 months. He conducted that interview on 19th May, 18th May. And Ambassador George Twa, who was a South African ambassador to Zambia, was present. And the nuggets of gold that were given in that interview, we look forward to what Dr. was sure. And the interview was for a lengthy period. The president even escorted them. And to hear that he had died, a few weeks later was very shocking. The First Lady also narrates the last circumstances, especially for the people that have been to the family home. She narrates how shocked she is. Because as at the other Friday, before some medical procedure was done, he was well. He was doing very well. They were planning to come. He was speaking to members of the opposition, to leaders of the opposition. Many will confess to you that he had spoken to them as late as last week, and he was saying he was coming at the month end. Has an autopsy been done? I'm not aware, and I think I haven't been made aware. Was there a request for an autopsy? There has been growing demand that the postmortem should be done. So whether it will be done or not, I think this has been a tumultuous period. You're just, before you even recover that the president who was well has died, then, it's been a tumultuous period, and I feel for the family that are making these decisions. But yes, the issue of the autopsy, remember there was an allegation of poisoning. The conclusive nature of resolving this issue would be an autopsy. But again, these are the wishes of the family. If they wish not to conduct it, we have to respect that. If they wish that it should take place, we have to respect that. But to my knowledge, I don't know how far it is with that matter.
President Lungu led the Patriotic Front, even if the High Court, the Constitutional Court, barred him from being eligible to contest the next elections 2026. Your party and its affiliates opted to take this matter back to the court to seek judicial review of the judgment to bar ECO from contesting in 2026. Now that is normal. There is a vacuum in your party. Your Secretary General, Mr. Rafael Nagachinda, yesterday addressed the mourners at the Secretariat and spoke to those who might have political ambitions to first of all wait until the mourning period has elapsed. Are we likely to see a vacuum? Are you going to plug this vacuum? Are we likely to see the PF going now to the convention because the substantive president is no more? What does your constitution say, and what is the likely way forward out of this?
My appeal, sadly, again, is to President Hakainde Hichilema. He should let go of the interference that his government have been doing on the Patriotic Front, allow it to elect a leadership. We're privileged that President Michael Sata gathered an array of leaders in our party. Wherever you look, you see a presidential material. Wherever you look, there is a gathering of leadership in our party. We will miss President Michael Sata, we will miss President Lungu, but you can see the potential in the many Just remember when we opened up the books and 8 of us stand up to hope to lead the party. There's no shortage. My appeal is just to President Hakainde Hichilema and his government. Stop this process where you want to destroy the party. You say you respect President Michael Sata, but you are killing his baby, which is the Patriotic Front. You say you respect President Edgar Lungu, but yet you are killing his baby. He's been president of that party the last 8-9 years. Leave the party to the Patriotic Front. They have a democratic process. They have a pool of leadership who can become head of state, who can lead our members, who can honor the wishes of President Michael Sata and President Edgar Lungu. And the Secretary General was very right. This is not a period for posturing, for political posturing and showing opportunism. Further, the PF is working in alliance with other opposition parties. We believe that the opposition can produce a single candidate, and that we believe that that candidate can easily beat President Hakainde Hichilema with all the misfortunes and poor leadership that has befallen him. He's likely not going to make it. This election in 2026 will be an election for the opposition to lose, not for Hakainde to win. In the sight of Zambians, he has lost this election. They are just looking at who can beat him in that academic process. So if the opposition bungle this process, it is the opposition that will have given away this election to President Hakainde Hichilema.
The government declared the state of national mourning for 7 days, which ends on Saturday. The expectation was by Saturday, the remains of the former head of state would have been put to rest. Are you optimistic? There is only tomorrow in between. Are you optimistic that that will be achieved, or do you see a possibility of the government extending the day of national mourning, the period of national mourning?
This will be my appeal to government. They should stop the mourning period, resolve the crisis. The president cannot just be buried like any other. This is a man that was our head of state. A friend of mine from Tanzania called me and they were saying, when are we burying? Because here they're asking when they can travel. Another friend of mine, an ambassador from Mozambique called me and said, when is it happening? Because for heads of states and former heads of states to travel, I think they need minimum 3-4 days to prepare. They move with security. You have to secure their accommodation. It's a huge mammoth task. If you call that, let's bury on Saturday, well, we'll bury him alone ourselves as Zambians, and we'll have robbed the opportunity for his peers, his friends from the region to come and attend his funeral. My appeal will be that let's stop this process, engage in these fruitful negotiations, and probably put a day for mourning probably next week. When all has been resolved, then we start the clock again and mourning for that officially 7 days or 3 days, whatever discretion the president can provide, so that foreign affairs will generate notifications and note verbal to SADC, to COMESA, to Africa, and to Europe and to the UN that our president died on this day and you'll be interred and put to rest on this day, so that those that wish to mourn with the people of Zambia and dignitaries. That would be my request, arising from experience. If we rush, locked by the process that was declared on Sunday, we'll have a sham of a process. That means we'll not honor the wishes of the late president, for example, to be mourned in Ndola, in Petauke. We will not fulfill. We'll have done it just as mere duty, but not as Africans. So my appeal is, let's stop the process. Let's allow the president, maybe away from the emotions, and also for the family, that the clock is no longer ticking, for people to calm down, resolve this issue, and then restart the process, and by next week it can be done. That would be my hope.
As we come to the end of our discussion, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, we have lost 6 in total former heads of state, which means by now we should be experts at how to handle these things. How are we looking in the eyes of the international community, seeing that the government and the family are fighting of who takes custody of the remains?
No, we're not looking good. We're looking terrible. But for me, where emotions are involved, it's like that. It's like what they say about love. You just can't be sure. You can't be experienced enough to have a relationship without turbulence and difficulties. A funeral is like that. Death is also like that. It attracts so intense emotions, and sometimes we become irrational in our responses. Sometimes we become highly emotional in our decision making. And for me, it's normal, that regrettable that we are at this rate, but it's nothing insurmountable. We all loved President Lungu. He was our head of state for the last 7 years. Let us now focus on his interest. What would President Edgar Lungu have wanted into this entire process? If we have that answer, we will resolve the crisis.
Speaking to me from the United States of America, he is the chairperson for information and publicity in the Patriotic Front. We've been looking at honoring ECL state protocol versus family wishes. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us. And thank you to our dear viewers, wherever you may have joined us from. Until next time, this has been Kennedy Mambwe. The Lord bless you and keep you. Until then, shalom, shalom.